the chat and comment. We have engaged live captioning for the meeting, so if that would be beneficial for you, you can turn those on by clicking the More button and then going to turn on closed captions. And with that, I hereby call this IDEAS Council meeting to order on April 30th, 1:05 p.m. And we can go ahead and start with our introductions. So again, my name is Lindsay Westmiller. I'm a co-chair on this council. I work with the Area Agency on Aging. Pronouns are she, hers. Got like a brown shirt on, long black hair. And pass to Brian.
Hello, folks. Brian B., like be who you are, autistic artist, advocate, and co-chair and voting member of this council. I'm over at the School of Medicine for my job as an advocate with JFK Partners. Pass.
Give the list up. Okay.
I'll hop in. This is Kaylee Day. I'm a voting member on the IDEAS Council, she, her pronouns. Professionally, I work as an advocate for adults in Denver County at Advocacy Denver. And personally, I have an older brother with developmental disabilities who lives over in Mesa County. I am a 30-something white woman with long red hair and clear framed glasses and a denim jacket on today. I'll pass it to Beth.
Hello, I'm Beth. I'm a voting member. I'm a parent to a young boy with multiple disabilities. I am sitting in my apartment hallway right now because my cat will not leave me alone in my apartment. My pronouns are she, hers, and I think that's it.
I can jump in. Hi, everybody. My name is Kisley Blue. I am the Mill Levy Program Manager at Rocky Mountain Human Services. I am a non-voting member, and I'm here really just to represent RMHS. I am a Black female in my 40s, sitting here in my home office. And yeah, I think I covered it. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Thanks. I'll pass.
Hi, everyone. This is Stephanie Gross. I am a voting member. I am off screen right now driving. I have brown hair, brown eyes. I'm actually in yoga clothes. Professionally speaking, I am the ED for Move Through Yoga. We bring adaptive yoga methods to all minds and bodies. As a voting member, I am really stoked to be here. Thank you. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Thank you, Stephanie.
We want to pass to Chris. And feel free to intro however you like. If you prefer in the chat or to hop in on video.
This for Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Ready, Chris? Do it again.
Hi, my name is Chris Hello, eager to be here today. I am Killer Man with Autism.
My name's Anne, and I'm Chris's mom, and I'm a visitor today, and I'm facilitating with Chris. And Hunter, one of his team, is here as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And is Bree in today, or I don't think I saw. Heather or Michelle?
Hey, this is Michelle Dumais. I am African American female, approaching my mid 50s, whatever that means. I have graying hair, big brown eyes, brown skin, wearing a scarf that's flowered today. I'm here because it's a joy to be here to lift up voices like my daughter, who's in the IDD community. I think I'm supposed to say my pronouns are she, her, but I love the me and the I. I don't, I'm not shy from that. And let's see what else. I'm sitting in my home office and it's a lovely day, wishing maybe I had taken the chair and everything outside because it's a nice 60s and I don't know when that thing called snow is coming back, but I'm enjoying the day here in Denver.
Thanks, Michelle. Bree might be out today.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Michelle again. I'm not sure if I said I'm a voting member, but I am.
Nice t-shirt. Okay, and then if you want to pull up our expectations, I can run through those. Thank you. So just to go over a couple expectations is for our meeting. Obviously, we'll be respectful of everyone's here, and remember, when you're not speaking, if you can mute yourself, raise your hand with the tools on Zoom. If you need help, please reach out to myself, Brian, Michaela. And just if you're able to introduce yourself before speaking, we encourage everyone to stay on topic. And another reminder that the meetings are public, recorded, and the chats are as well. Voting will happen in the chat. We'll call for a vote when needed, and then the voting members can vote yes or no in the chat. Always, be safe during meetings, and no need to, participate if you're occupied in something like you're driving or what have you. And of course, we want to also have fun. And I see that most people have done this, but feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as well, for those of you who are not on the council but attending. And now I will pass to Michaela so she can introduce herself and run over some partner updates. Actually, I'm sorry, we'll do that one second. First, we want to run over the March meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those? And does anyone have anything that we need to change or update on those? I'm not hearing anything. So I'll open for a motion to approve the March meeting minutes.
This is Kaylee. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
This is Beth. I'll
Michelle.
second it.
Oh, okay, hey Beth, I was gonna second. Go ahead. Good to hear you, friend.
We can just put our votes in the chat to approve the March meeting minutes. Must be yes or no. I, no.
I'll abstain, and I do not have access to the chat right now to put that there.
Who's missing? Chris and Stephanie, and I know Stephanie's driving. Guessing she's abstaining, and so we got Chris. So we've got 5 yes, 1 of 7, so the motion passes to approve March meeting minutes. So now I will pass back to Michaela so she can introduce herself and give us some council and partner updates.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Hennig. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program manager for IDEAS. For those of you who are new to us, that stands for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, Equitable Access to Services. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, for those of you who have joined us as members of the community, we're so happy to have you here. We have some of our community partners from the library joining us today to provide an update on their strategic planning, ways to incorporate voices that have maybe been missing from the library in the past and that they are working to incorporate moving forward into the future. In addition to some of our IDEAS partners with the Digital Navigator program and Autism Community Store. So you'll hear from them all in a moment. If you are here from the public and you would like to share an experience, an opinion, and a thought with us, we will have public comment. And I believe that is scheduled to start at 2:35. And that time is reserved for those of you to share whatever you'd like to in this space. We do ask that public comment, each member who is providing a public comment, keep that to 3 minutes, and we'll help you keep track of that if you choose to comment. But for now, I wanted to just kind of welcome again everyone to the meeting. Thank you so much, Lindsay and Brian, for running it as our co-hosts. I think the one update that Corey Boyle, who is our secretary and is out on PTO today, so I am acting as secretary in their stead. But the one update that Corey wanted me to share was that they are still actively recruiting for 3 open advisory council seats, working to make sure that they're on all the right spaces and places to get diverse representation onto our council. I know you all have our flyers, so please spread those widely into all the spaces that you are in. And we are targeting to conduct interviews the first week of June. And we would love members of the council to help participate in that interview process. So if any of you are interested, please just shoot me or Corey an email and let us know so that we can start getting those spots scheduled. Just a quick show of hands, is there anyone that might be interested off the bat in participating in interviews? Brian, anyone else? Lindsay, okay.
Michaela, this is Michelle. I don't know how to raise my hand on my phone, so but yes, I'd like to participate,
Oh, that's
please.
wonderful. Perfect. And if you are still kind of thinking about your schedules and want to contact us later, feel free to do that. No need to make that decision now. So Corey,
Michaela,
yeah,
this is Brian. May I just augment a bit what you're saying?
Please.
So the IDD experience is very disenfranchising, where it's like, hey, I'm trying to work, I'm trying to live, I'm trying to have a house, I'm trying to volunteer, I'm trying to have program and supports and services and community, and I need some support to get there, to be included. This council, likewise, when somebody expresses that they're interested to be on this council, one of the ways that we can include them, support them, welcome them, is simply to get to know them. And joining the interview is one great way to get to know folks who either live with IDD or are family members or somehow connected and want to be a part of our council. So I want to just highlight and underscore the invitation to be on the membership community, committee or the welcoming committee and volunteer. Come join the interviews. Pass.
Thanks so much, Brian. Appreciate that. I have some other updates for you all on stipends. Good news, they are coming very soon, and we have some concrete information for you all and next actionable steps. But before I do that, I'll give the floor back to you all to see if there's any council member updates and CAC updates. Unless, Lindsay, is there anything that I'm missing?
We can start with the CAC update.
Well, that's me. This is Michelle. I'll give the CAC update really quick. We had our CAC meeting, I believe it was the 23rd. Brian or Kisley, anybody else that was there, if I had the date wrong, please chime in. But let me tell you, a lot of fun. We were able to meet in person. Brian surprised us by starting out the meeting online, and then poof, like a ray of sunshine that he is, he appeared in person. We had food, I'm telling you. So anybody's thinking about joining any of either of these, you definitely you should, because there's a lot of sense of community in both of them, the CAC and this IDEAS. So really want to underscore Brian and Michaela's suggestion of please join. So at the CAC meeting, we did a couple of things. We're in the process also of looking for members. So we talked extensively about our application. We tried to look at it from the point of view of, have we included anything in this process that's a barrier? So just sort of getting real and talking amongst ourselves, we said, you know what, it's a little bit long, it's a little bit wordy, a little bit impersonal. So we flipped it on its head and we shortened our application process, meaning the application, I think, had quite a few questions. We narrowed it down, made it more bite-sized and approachable. We also decided to kind of make it a little bit less dry, and we decided that we were going to have some testimonials about the impact of mill levy by having asking for testimonials of what has been the positive impact of mill levy. We also asked for some support from our partners, our community partners, to send us either testimonials or pictures or some other information that shares what the mill levy does. And so we also narrowed down and sort of walked through what the recruitment flyer for should look like. And so just sort of doing some more work about what we want to do, doing some more work around how can we ask people to join us and to be a part of the Community Advisory Council. So those are the two things we did. We also finished up by saying, hey, we do want to meet in May. And so we're doing a doodle, which is a little technology piece that allows everyone to weigh in and when they are most available to have the next meeting in May. So again, worked on the Community Advisory Council application, which should be out mid-May, and open until, I believe, in June. So we have a good window to allow folks to say, hey, raise their hand and say, hey, I'd like to see if I can lend my voice and represent. And the recruitment flyer, and then of course the meeting for May.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any other council members that have any updates to share?
This is Brian, co-chair here and artist advocate and trainer in community. And a couple of days ago, I was one of the sensory friendly trainers for the Special Olympics coaches. As you can imagine, Special Olympics covers not just Denver proper, and in fact, larger than Denver Metro, greater Denver Metro, but Special Olympics Colorado covers that region and more. So we'll hear a little bit more about it on a presentation earlier today, but it's just nice to hear one of the guys there said, I've been a coach for 50 years, and it is so nice to see inclusion getting the attention that it deserves. Pass.
Thank you, Brian. Well, see if anyone else has anything to share. Any council members, if there's any events or happenings going on related to the council at a moment.
Who was at that Saturday Funness that would like to share about that? This council had a Saturday Funness get together. Okay, we'll just leave people to wonder, what was that fun about?
This is this is Michelle. Um, Lindsay was there, and Michaela was there, and Corey was there. I was there. Chris was there. Ann was there. Beth was there. It was a lot of fun. Again, we're not a party train, but certainly in the last couple of times we've just seen how it's so important to have community, and we were able to gather, and so it was very nice to gather.
This is Beth. I think the best part about it was putting faces to faces from the virtual to actually in person. That was really, really cool.
Looks like Chris P has his hand raised.
Yep,
Chris, would love
Chris.
to hear from you.
Chris says, great cafe. Beastly great. Beastly great heart in people. Beastly great heart in people there. Banded together. Really fun. Really fun to see everyone. Really fun to see everyone together.
Thank you, members and supporters and family members that joined. And I just want to highlight that arts in community is an accessibility feature. It's a inclusion factor. Like arts is for, if you have a pulse, you qualify, come enjoy. And this group got together for some food, which also fits that category, and some arts. And we have great community partners like the Access Gallery, where we can go and enjoy some arts including by people who have disabilities. So thanks to all the members and the visitors for helping make that event happen.
And thanks for everyone for sharing. And anyone who missed that, we're gonna aim to try to do some kind of little get together, maybe seasonally, and if people have ideas or places they, have thoughts on that might be good to meet at, or events where we can meet at, feel free to mention that, at any of our meetings. We can plan ahead. So I think now we'll pass back to Michaela for the stipend updates.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So I am so excited that after a very long time coming, we finally got the processes and policies in place to implement the council member stipends that was approved by our previous acting executive director, Jay Moran, in November 2022. It's been a long time coming, and so that even predates um, my participation as IDEAS program manager. Um, so, um, as by way of reminder, we are offering $60 stipends to any voting council member who is interested in receiving those. You have the choice if you'd like to accept the $60 per meeting stipend or waive it. That's totally up to you. And we just need to start initiating those stipends, a signed acknowledgement form. And Corey sent those out via email about a week ago on April 24th. If any of you need us to float those back to the top of your inbox again, please just pop something in the chat and Lynn was go ahead and send those forms to you again. So again, what we need to start initiating those stipends is a signed acknowledgement form. And so it's a fillable PDF. It'll provide you kind of the policy and how you qualify for a $60 stipend, what you need to do. Essentially, we need to record your attendance and meeting minutes, and you need to participate in all votes except for the vote to adjourn. So, you know, if you've voted on all the decisions that are needed to conduct a meeting, but need to hop off early to attend an appointment or pick up your kid to school after all those meetings, you can still get paid for that meeting if you're accepting stipends. And then what will happen then is we're hoping within about 3 weeks we can get that check sent out to you, and those should be going on a monthly basis. Now, for those of you who have accepted the payment and were with us in late 2022 and 2023, we will be backdating those stipend payments. But please know, as Jordan has put in the chat, these payments are taxable income. So you'll need to act accordingly and seek tax advice from your tax professional. The city needs to report any thing that we pay out above $599. So depending on how many meetings you attended between November 2022 and will attend through December of 2024, you may end up getting paid more than $600 from the city this year, in which case we would need to report that to the IRS. So we just want to make sure that we're really transparent. The IRS rules can get a little bit tricky, and just know that you'll need to, you know, this may count as taxable income for you. Another caveat that we want to provide to you all is that this is our stipend policy now for the IDEAS program. Because we are a program of the City and County of Denver, if the city were to in the future implement a stipend policy for councils or commissions, we would then need to adjust the policy and our payments to be in alignment with that. Currently, the city doesn't have an overarching policy in place, and so we have worked to create our own policies and processes that have been approved through our own leadership, and we can proceed with that for now. But just know that we may need to make some changes to that in the future. Any questions before I go on to talk about reimbursements?
Brian B here, middle-aged white guy from home. And I just want to say thank you. There are some people attending here today that helped make this happen. And this really goes on the backs of those who were serving before us. Thank you. Thank you for valuing people with lived experience and that are serving, especially people that have often not been valued. Pass.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that. And thank you and to the other members of the council who worked to make this possible. I'm so excited that we are finally getting it started. And I apologize, I forgot to share the details of the screen. Right now you can see there's a slide. The title is Stipends, and it proclaims stipends are finally approved and ready to be delivered. And then there's some text on that slide that kind of reviews the content that I just spoke about. We need to sign the agreement form. Even if you're choosing to decline the stipends, please do complete that. Just there's a little check mark box that you can check and say, I decline the stipends, sign it back to us. We can keep that on file. If you prefer to work in hard copy, please just let me know. You can send me an email, a direct message, or put it in the chat and just say, hey, Michaela, can you mail these out to me? I'll get that into the mail for y'all with a stamped and pre-addressed return envelope so you can take care of it with good old-fashioned pen and ink. And we will get those out to you. So because we wanted to make sure that we were lifting up all of your voices and showing value for the time and expertise that you bring, we wanted to offer stipends to help compensate you just for your time and expertise to show that we value that. And then in addition to those stipends, should someone incur a cost to make their meeting attendance possible, we want to help reimburse you for that. And again, I just want to be clear. So this is aside from the stipends. We are paying you for your time and your talent through these stipends. For the reimbursement, that would be things such as if we ever had a meeting in person and you needed to order some transportation, we would want to help make that happen for you. Or if you needed to arrange for childcare or care for someone that depends on you, we would want to help you with that too. We have a request form for you to complete. Please make sure that you would kind of note the reason that this reimbursement helps you attend the meeting, along with some documentation that would provide proof of purchase. So a receipt, or say if you were contracting with a babysitter, if you could get that babysitter to sign something saying, I babysat for these 2 hours while this person attended this council meeting and was paid this amount of money. Something that we can verify that that expense took place. If you can send that to us within 90 days that you incurred the cost, we'll review that. We can't guarantee that every reimbursement request that's submitted will be approved. We're going to look for reasonableness of cost and kind of look to tie that to the reason that you needed support for the meeting. So if, for example, someone was to submit a reimbursement for us to say, I attended this council meeting on April 30th, and then 2 days later, I bought a pizza. Please reimburse me for that cost. Of course, unfortunately, while we all love pizza, we wouldn't be able to reimburse you for that cost. So we need to see that there's some sort of tie and reasonableness of cost to help you support your attendance in that meeting. Does anyone have any questions about that process?
This is Brian B. I have my hand up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that ridiculous example of the pizza. You just scratched all my funny nerves that needed scratched.
That's what I'm here for, Brian.
This is awesome, and I would like to encourage council members to utilize this. If you bought a computer in order to be able to attend this meeting and future meetings, I don't know that this funding pot would be able to pay for your computer, but it might, and we wouldn't even be able to know to consider it unless you submit the form. So whatever it took for you to be, if 2 days later you bought a pizza, maybe not so much. But maybe if you bought a pizza that day, I don't know. But submit, please. Many of you I know are very humble and self-sacrificing, but please consider that what you submit may help cut the channel for those coming after us. Pass.
Well, thank you again so much. Again, Corey is on a very well-deserved vacation through Wednesday. But if you could get those acknowledgement forms to them, feel free to copy me. We'll get those payments processed as soon as possible. If there's no more questions or comments.
It looks like Lynn.
And just to repeat, Michaela mentioned at the beginning, if for some reason you can't find Corey's email from the 24th, please let me or Michaela know, and we'll get that in your hands again or back to the top of your email box.
Or into your old-fashioned mailbox.
Yes, we are like to get it to you.
Mhm.
How about carrier pigeons? Are we going to do?
Oh gosh,
No.
we don't have a line item in our budget for carrier
Oh,
pigeons, but I can work
gosh
on
darn. Okay.
that. Thank you all so much for sharing your time and talent. We're so grateful and humbled for your participation, and so excited to be able to finally start providing this to you all. So with that, we're right on time, and I will kick it back to Lindsay to introduce our first guest speaker.
Yes, and we actually will have one presentation prior to our break and then two more afterwards. So we've got a really exciting meeting. We get to hear from, a number of different people, and we'll be hearing from Kirsten Decker with Denver Public Library and hearing about some of the strategic plans as far as the library and ways that they might be connecting a bit more with the IDD folks in our community. So I will pass that over to her.
And Kristen,
Hello.
hi. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to let you know that I gave you co-host abilities. So if you would like to drive through your own presentation, you're welcome to. But we also have your slides built in here, so it's totally up to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. You'll just have to let me know if you see that.
We do.
Okay, great. Let me put it in presentation mode.
And a quick reminder to all our presenters, please provide a visual description of yourself. And then if you could provide a visual description of the slides as you scroll through them and the content, that would be fantastic too, to make sure that everyone participating in this meeting can access all the information.
Yeah, perfect. You might have to let me know if I'm doing that well. So you won't hurt my feelings if I'm doing it poorly, please tell me. So I am Kirsten Decker. I am the manager of strategy and evaluation for the Denver Public Library System. And I am here in my office, and you see all of my messiness behind me. So I am just here to share a little bit about our strategic planning process. And I'm joined by my colleague, Hannah Jakovich, who is, I only see a few of you now since I'm in presentation mode, but she is here as well. And on the next slide, this is just our title slide, sharing that we're here to talk a little bit about the strategic planning process for our 2025 to 2030 strategic plan. But on this introduction slide, I'm going to go over what we'll focus on today, as well as a couple of different ways that you can engage during this meeting, as well as after this meeting. So in the event that we either don't have time or this isn't the right environment for you to engage in, there are a couple of different ways that we would welcome and be excited about your engagement. So here on this introduction slide, first, we're going to briefly touch on our current strategic plan, and super briefly. We're then going to share what we're hoping to accomplish for our next strategic plan, provide an overview of how the community, or how the library rather, is engaging the community in its planning. And then we would love to ideate with you about how we can partner in this engagement. So the different ways that you can engage with us, and Hannah is monitoring the chat. Out loud, you're welcome to raise your hand and we'll invite you to unmute and share if that's your preferred method. You can also engage in the chat. Hannah will be monitoring the chat and will answer questions both verbally and in writing. So she will try to answer those questions in writing, and then at the end, we can answer those same questions verbally. I think that might make the most sense in terms of process. And then via email, we'll share our email at the end of this. So if you do have questions that weren't able to get addressed or ideas that we weren't able to address, we do have a way that you can get in touch with us. So with that, we'll kind of go into our current strategic plan. So the 2021 to 2024 strategic roadmap. Right now, we're looking at an overview of the library's vision, mission, and values. The library's vision is a strong community where everyone thrives. Our mission is together we create welcoming spaces where all are free to explore and connect. And our 5 key values are welcoming, curiosity, connection, equity, and stewardship. And so our current strategic roadmap was approved by our library commission in 2021, which means that we planned it during COVID, which was a feat. And we were very happy to be bringing that to our library commission in the second quarter, so in April of 2021. And the current strategic roadmap is based on the foundation of our vision, mission, and values, but has 3 theme areas. The first is access and enrichment. And this theme area is really focused on responding to the diverse needs of our community through our collection, through our technology, which you're going to hear a little bit about from Nate, who I was surprised to see, one of my colleagues on the meeting. And then as well as how we get out into the community and provide our services outside of the walls of a library. Our spaces and places, as many of you likely know, we have 27 physical library locations. And our goal is that those locations are welcoming as well as reflective of the neighborhoods that they're sitting in, so that we are being intentional about how we design our spaces and looking to meet unique needs of different neighborhoods because we know that we are placed in a geographically diverse way. So what works well in one neighborhood may not be a great fit for another neighborhood. And then our culture and organizational health theme is focused on the internal culture that we create for our employees, focused on equity, and how that is a catalyst or allows us to best serve the community. So things like good fiscal stewardship, training and development, wellness programming, things along those lines, data and transparency, that if we are focused on a healthy internal culture, rooted in kind of accountability and transparency, that we will be more equipped, better equipped to best serve the community. So those are the 3 current pillars of our roadmap. When we developed this roadmap, we did extensive community engagement through 60 community conversations. That was at this point years ago. And so now we are turning to our next strategic planning cycle, and that's why we're here today. So as we look forward for 2025 to 2030, this slide is kind of giving an overview of the things that we think are kind of fundamental assumptions that we are making about our next roadmap. And so we always start on our team with a statement of our assumptions because we think it's healthy for those to be kind of the foundation of the conversation so that we can explore why we're making the decisions we're making and provide a platform for discussing how assumptions might need to change. And so the Denver Public Library is going to maintain its commitment to our existing vision, mission, and values. So those ones that I shared on the last slide are not changing. Our equity plan. So each city agency was charged with creating an equity plan under the last mayoral administration. That lived separate from, in most cases, an agency's strategic plan. As we move forward into our next strategic plan, we are committing to building that directly into our strategy. So rather than kind of managing 2 parallel narratives, 2 parallel sets of priorities, thinking about how equity is foundational to the work that we do as an organization and building it directly into our annual and 5-year commitments. And we're focused on refining the library's work to provide clarity on our core services and our unique assets. So what are the things that the library can do for our community that we are uniquely positioned to support, to provide for Denver residents? And thinking about how we best leverage our staff, our strategic partners, and our community members in doing that. So why we're here today is because community engagement and understanding what our community wants and needs from the library system is absolutely crucial to developing a plan that achieves or that operates on those assumptions that I just shared. So in order for us to build a strategic plan that is responsive to the needs of the community, we need to spend time identifying and listening to the community. So our community engagement learning goals are expanding on what we found in our 2022 community survey. So in 2022, the Denver Public Library did a community survey that had two mechanisms. One was a mailed survey. So that went to 5,000 households. And we received about a 5% response rate, which sounds bad, but it was 6. It was actually really good. It sounds horrible, but I promise 6% is like awesome for a public survey like that. And then an open survey, which meant that anybody could go and take this survey. And that gave us an opportunity to understand how I like to think about it like the public square test. So you could stop any resident in Denver, and it's within a 5% chance likelihood that they would tell you what we learned on that survey. So thinking about like if we asked, how satisfied are you with the library's physical materials? And we heard from the statistical survey that people were majority satisfied. It's very likely within a 5% margin of error that we would hear from any of you in this room that you also feel that way. So that's a good way to think about what that survey was designed to help us understand. We also realize that a number of our customers may not have had the opportunity to take that survey. And so we want to be inclusive and understand how we can bring in qualitative data into our decision-making process. And so our current planning cycle is focused on identifying, listening to, and collaborating with those missing voices. And so we've been working with our boards and commissions, which is Lynn, who's on this call, attended one of those and invited us to this meeting. So thank you. We've been going to existing spaces where immigrants and refugees might come to do library or to work with the library, where individuals who are experiencing housing instability might be coming to engage with the library. We've worked with the teams in the community to really capture feedback and valuable insight from individuals who we know are likely not represented in that statistical survey to the extent to which we know they're using the library. So we're going to do this to connect important and missing elements of the library to our core services and unique assets. And we also want to learn how we can be better at reaching all of the communities in Denver, recognizing that there are lots of different ways that people engage, and we have a lot to learn from other organizations and how to best connect with different parts of the community. So we're doing some feedback collection. And the first mechanism of feedback collection is format, or is a digital collection tool rather. So this slide kind of demonstrates what format we're asking for this feedback in, the content that we're asking for, and the accessibility elements that we think would be important to this group. So the format is a digital survey via our professional survey tool. The content is 8 open-ended questions, so really seeking that qualitative feedback. There is no identifying or demographic information, so individuals do not have to provide us with information unless they are interested in including that in the open-ended questions. And you might ask yourself, well, you said you're doing missing voices, but then you're doing this feedback collection method that doesn't ask demographic questions. Good catch, that is intentional. We are only offering this survey, this feedback collection method specifically to the missing voices groups that we're engaging with. So we are aware of kind of who we've reached out to, and that we know that the feedback we're collecting will be coming from those groups. We do have a more general feedback that we are doing starting later this month at our Denver Public Library locations, as well as digitally, that is a little more open-ended, or isn't as targeted, I guess is a better way to put that. The accessibility elements that are important here is that it's offered in 6 languages: Amharic, Arabic, English, Somali, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And something to know about our digital survey tool is that it does test the survey for accessibility. So it looks for questions that are confusing or too long. It looks for the sequencing of questions. So if you're asking people really big open-ended questions and then asking them multiple choice, just thinking about how to best design your survey to allow the respondent to be successful in navigating that survey, as well as usability issues, like if you're using certain colors, or these are things that you all are experts in, and we rely on guidance from different internal and external resources to help us make sure that our surveys and our tools are as accessible as possible. And so if, say, we get an accessibility score that's not in the green, it gives us specific feedback on what we should change. So we work to make this tool as accessible as we can within this functionality. So lastly, we're here, 1, to share and meet you, and then 2, to ask for your partnership. So as a community member, we would invite you to take the survey yourself, to provide us with your feedback as an individual who may or may not use the library regularly. We think both of those points of view are really valuable to us. And then as a commissioner or an advisory board member, we've created a survey specifically for your feedback, from your vantage point as a member of this group. So you don't have to take both, but if you feel so inclined, you're welcome to. The questions are different. We will be sharing those in a follow-up email to your administrative folks on this group. And how we're asking for your support and partnership is to share this with your community. So if you're in person at an event, we've created flyers or with a QR code link. If you need printed surveys, we are happy to collaborate with you to make that possible. Social media, we've provided some graphics and caption language to make it easy if you want to encourage people in your network to provide their feedback. And then also via a link. We've created a direct link to the survey that shows that it's from the Denver Public Library, that you can share with your colleagues and your community as well. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to share our email, which is evaluation@denverlibrary.org. And again, we will include all of this information in the follow-up content. And I would open it up for any questions that folks have, either verbally or in the chat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I've been managing the chat, and I'll just share the conversation that has been going on. As people start writing additional questions in the chat, feel free to do so. The questions that came up during the presentation were about the difference between this presentation for the Denver Library and the following presentation that will be by our colleague, Nate. So to clarify that, We are talking about, in this former presentation that Kirsten just gave, the strategic planning process for the Denver Public Library and how we can collaborate in sharing community engagement opportunities for that. Whereas Nate will soon be sharing about, it looks like, and Nate, feel free to correct me, the Digital Navigator program and how that intersects with inclusivity, and it relates to the Mill Levy Fund. Okay, and then one more question we have in the chat is if we will be having this survey available at the Autism Resource Fair on May 19th, which is not only Denver folks. The answer to that question is that we don't have that planned. And Kirsten, it looked like I interrupted you.
No, not at all. Thank you, Hannah. So we are not planning to be physically present at that resource fair. However, if folks from this group are planning to be there, we would be happy to connect with you after this to make sure you have the tools you need to share the opportunity with folks who are attending. One thing that is nice about our survey tool is that if somebody takes the survey, say in like Arvada, it's going to capture at just their zip code, so we can actually remove that data. Obviously, if the event is in Denver and people are taking it at the event, that might create some challenges. But what we can do is, depending on if this feels like a good mechanism to gain feedback, we could talk about adding in like a, do you live in Denver or something along those lines, so that you're not having to manage that responsiveness in the moment.
Kirsten and Hannah, thank you so much. This is Michelle.
Michelle.
And I have a couple of clarifying questions. So I apologize in advance. So I walk in the library with my kid, and we check out a book. We listen to someone read to us in the children's section or something like that. And tell me where before I leave I am offered the ability to participate in a survey. Someone walks up to me, it's part of my checkout process. Like, tell me how I cross with this survey.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you. That's a great question. I love to hear that you're coming to the library with your little one. So thank you for sharing. Maybe not so little, but your version of little one. And so for this specific survey that we're offering at our physical locations, we will be having like giant Post-it notes, essentially, that give you the opportunity to respond on a Post-it note. So there will be the questions, and Hannah, remind me if it's like one a week and it rotates, is that right?
It depends on the location. One of our locations is smaller, and so that's the approach they're taking. They're going to rotate one question per week that is available to respond to via what we're calling a talkback board. And so that is the approach at that location. At all of our other locations, we have all 3 questions posted, and they will be up throughout May. So they will be up the entire month of May, and they'll be replaced regularly. So there's always room to write more. And next to each one and across the space, there is a poster that links to the online digital version of the survey with all 3 questions as well.
Thank you, Hannah.
Is it okay to give a little bit of feedback?
Sure.
So it's a push-pull, right? So you are, in essence, pulling, meaning trying to get us to participate, and so that you can get this data for eventually these 8 questions. And just a little bit of feedback. that supposes that one, I see these Post-its, that I'm not so involved in my daughter's world and exposing her to whatever's happening in the library. Your supposition is that I'm going to see in the month of May, I'm going to see your request for interaction by this, by seeing this Post-it. In the way that you describe it, you also suppose that I have the ability to interact because I have some sort of digital device that I understand with a QR code how to do this. So there's a little bit of a leap that, of course, when you're pulling information, you then assume. And I wonder if the library and whomever's running this survey might be open to a little bit congruently of maybe pushing a little. Meaning, we all have to check out when we get a book. We all, if we're, or whatever material we're checking out, we all have to check out. You don't let us just walk out, right? But I'm wondering if the library might be open to finding a way to push a little. So since we all have to check out, and I can't even believe this is coming out of my mouth because I hate these things when I'm online, but I wonder if as a part of the checkout process, randomly, and I'm often randomly searched or asked to step aside at the airport. There's a joke in that if you know that I'm Muslim wearing a scarf. Anyway, I wonder if the library might entertain the idea of somehow pushing a little bit. So as a part of the checkout process, hey, would you like, to take a short survey? And you give me the opportunity to know that the survey is possible. You also give me the opportunity to say, not right now. I got to check out. I'm about to have a meltdown. I got to go eat, got to go to the bathroom, got to go. But I'm wondering if from your incredible, because 6% is really actually quite high, but I'm wondering if you do a little bit of pushing, if you might be able to get more interaction, more feedback, because your supposition that I'm going to see it, for those of us that are providing care, sometimes that's a big supposition that I'm going to see what it is that you're presenting to me. Because in all of 2022, I was just trying to think, I never saw anything that asked me to participate in any sort of survey. And I'm wondering that's because you assume that it would pull me in, but I'm wondering what would happen if you just pushed a little bit out.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Michelle. Thank you for sharing, one, your experience, and then two, some ideas about how we can kind of continue to evolve the way that we are trying to collect this information. I think it's always really helpful to hear back directly from community members. So a few things that I would share. So in terms of the pushing, I totally agree, right? It's this like kind of this ballet, like this fine balance between saying, hey, we want to hear from you, and like, hey, we need to hear from you, if that makes sense. And so the way that we're trying to strike that balance this time around is by marrying this kind of general open call with the more targeted outreach that I shared a little bit about, but not a ton. So for the groups that we're really hoping to hear from, the folks who we've identified as missing voices in our survey, so individuals who identify as having housing instability, teens, immigrants and refugees, I'm gonna forget individuals experiencing disabilities, a number of these groups. We're kind of going directly to them and having these conversations, whether asking for support in terms of pushing out opportunities for feedback, but also hosting focus groups, having, let's see, we have at our Plaza program, we had more kind of push approach talkback boards where folks could respond in their own language as part of the program. So there are kind of like, I would say like mixed methods. All of that to say that I think your idea about having it be part of the checkout process is one that we've explored a little bit. And our option currently, and so I'd be curious about what you think about this. Our option currently is to include it on the receipt, which I don't know about you, but I like wish that thing didn't print because I just throw it in the recycling bin right next to the checkout. Don't tell other people that. I guess I just said it in a public meeting, so here we are. But you know, to me, that isn't the most effective way, is like on that receipt, but I would be curious because that is something that we do have direct control over.
Yeah, this is Michelle. Thank you for hearing and asking for more feedback. Yeah, so I'm not publicly being displayed in this meeting, so I can second your emotion of tossing that receipt, sister. I often don't get the receipt, so just being really transparent and just make a mental note of when the book is due, right? So, and I don't know how many people try to avoid having more paper in their life. But yeah, I think if you have the capacity to control that, then certainly, use it as a tool if you can. Um, just know that, yeah, a lot of us are trying to have less paper, so we choose, no print as an option too, no receipt as an option as well. So, but yeah, I think if you can control it, it doesn't, that's probably like another inch of ink. It's probably, it might be worth it to see, to experiment and see what feedback you get from actually knowing, because I think digitally what you're able to do on the backside is know that it came from that. You might be able to, sort of put a little crumb to know that this engagement came from the receipt of a patron. You don't have to know which patron, anything like that, but you might be able to see, so that when you're looking at your data at the end, 500 of our participants were from patrons that came in that checked out, so that you would know later on, yes, this is a viable way, no, this is not a viable way to connect.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. Michaela, you have your hand up?
Yeah, no, I was just going to thank Kirsten and Hannah so much for bringing this survey to our advisory council and to our community. If you, Kirsten, get that to me and Corey, we'll make sure that we can get that out to our council so that they can participate as they're able and share that widely. We're running
We are short on time.
about 12 minutes over.
Mhm.
So maybe we could shorten our break to 3 minutes. Lindsay, what do you
Yeah,
think?
that's what I was gonna suggest.
Okay.
Let's break now. Kirsten has shared her email, so I think if there's follow-up questions, we could probably reach out that way and also via the chat. But thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and we can take a short break and reconvene at 2:15.
Thank you. Break. Back in 2 minutes. We are on break. I'm staying on camera and available. We are also being recorded, and I welcome folks that wish to say hi or tell a joke or any other manner of shenanigans. Okay, Beth, take care.
Bye, Beth.
Nate, if you want to test your screen sharing and that kind of button playing, now might be a good time.
Thanks for the prompt. Let's
As soon as I said that to you, I realized there's a slide that I should be sharing that says we're on break, but whatever.
I'll keep letting people know.
You're showing your Google chat right now.
Oops.
There we go.
That is not what I want to show.
Well, and then I said that, and then you said oops, and it toggled, and now it's back to the digital inclusion DPL.
Okay, cool. I'm the picture of professionalism, right? I'm here that is, yeah.
I could mess with you. So now it's showing your cat. Did you mean to be showing your cat?
That's what the internet's for, we all know.
That's of course, right.
That's called the cat tax.
Right.
Nice. Nice. Thank you, Kaylee. Welcome back.
So welcome back, everyone. And right now we've got the presentation from Nate Stone, also with Denver Public Library. This would be a mill levy funded program, and this is around digital inclusion. So we'll pass that over to you.
And
Hi,
Nate,
all.
sorry, this is Michaela. I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure, go ahead and take that your full 15 minutes, including questions. We can bump things back a little bit.
Okay. Sounds good. So now Brian's got me paranoid. Is everyone seeing my slides? Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So my name's Nate Stone with the Denver Public Library. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a 40-year-old bald male with a horseshoe mustache and some black glasses, wearing my standard library issue red flannel shirt. I'm here to talk to you all about about the Digital Navigator program, one of the positions which is funded through the mill levy funds. But I also wanted to take the chance to talk a little bit about all of the services we offer around digital inclusion at DPL. Because if there's anything the library is not good at it's telling everyone what we do. So I still run into people who are surprised to find out that we have computers at the library. So I am going to share a little bit about how we approach digital inclusion here. So to begin with, I work in the digital inclusion department, and most people say, what does that mean? And to explain digital inclusion, we have to start with the idea of digital equity. And the idea of digital equity is that someone's neighborhood, their race, their age, gender, immigration status, disability status, primary language, education, or income level is not predictive of their access to the internet, their access to appropriate devices, or their knowledge of how to use digital technology to meet their needs, right? So digital equity is the idea that that beautiful world where everyone has access to the internet and devices and knows how to use them. Digital inclusion then are the activities that we need to actually reach that state of digital equity. So it's what we work towards at the library, which is helping people get connected to affordable internet, helping people find appropriate devices, and offering digital literacy training. As a sort of overview of what that looks like here in Denver, about 14% of the households in Denver are digitally disconnected, which means that either they don't have broadband internet at home, or they don't have a large screen device, or both, right? Like every other inequality in our society, those are that divide is felt more strongly by certain groups, right? So 22% of African American households are digitally disconnected. 21% of Latino households are digitally disconnected. If folks are low income, that's another big predictor that they don't have access to the internet, right? So 23% of households that earn less than 30K a year, or 30,000 a year. And then 33% of households with less than a high school degree are digitally disconnected as well. It may or may not surprise you to find out that that divide is even wider in the IDD community. So if you look at the stats from the Census Bureau, who tracks who has a device at home and who has internet access at home, in Denver, 20% of the people who report having a disability don't have a computer at home. And if you compare that to the 10% of folks who without a disability, 35% of people with disability don't have broadband internet access at home. And compare that to the 15% of folks with no reported disability. So what's on screen now is a map of what that looks like geographically in Denver. Like a lot of other inequities, the digital divide is really strong on the west and north sides of Denver. So like the Westwood, Villa Park neighborhoods, Globeville, Montbello. And there's a sort of new little swath down in the far southeast in our Hamden sort of area as well. So what is the library doing then to try to address any of that? So we do a couple core things. My department is small, but mighty. So we help provide public computers, internet, printing, and faxing access. We circulate technology. We offer technology education. We have our digital navigator program, and we have maker spaces called IDDEAS. And I'll get into more detail about all these in just a sec. So in terms of technology access, we have hundreds of public PCs across the city, free Wi-Fi in every building. We are still trying to get the word out that printing, copying, scanning, and faxing are all free, up to 100 pages at all Denver Public Library locations. There's 26, soon to be 27 across the city. And then as beyond that, to help people get access at home, we also have a technology that people can check out. So if you have a full library card, there are around 1,000 hotspots and Chromebooks that you can check out for 3 months to take home and use at home. They are very, very popular. So there is a pretty substantial wait list for them, but those are a possibility if you're looking to get access at home. We also have 3 different workstations, accessibility workstations across the system. At the Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez branch, the Blair Caldwell branch, and the Central Library. The Central Library has a partial one right now while they're under reconstruction, but it'll reopen this fall. But those workstations have adjustable desks. They have large print keyboards and trackball mice. They have the JAWS screen reader, the Pearl reader, Dragon Dictate. The one at Central, when it fully reopens, also has, oh dear, now I'm spacing the name. Video calling. We have a Braille printer, which is the loudest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Also there as well as large magnifiers too. Technology education takes a couple different forms at DPL. So one of them is we do offer some classes in drop-in tech help. You can always find our current offerings at denverlibrary.org/tech. And I just put that link in the chat as well. We have one-on-one tech appointments that you can book at University Hills and Cherry Creek. And there's drop-in tech help, which is an hour or two where you can come in with any technology question and talk to a friendly library staff member who can help you figure it out. So both of those one-on-one tech appointments and drop-in tech help are generally meant for sort of one-off questions, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to read books on my on my phone, or how to check out ebooks from the library. Can you help me do that? If you have more in-depth questions, right? That's when we can talk about the digital navigator service. Kaylee, I'm glad to hear that you're learning, learning a lot. Like I said, the library's bad at tooting its own horn. So the program that I supervise are called the Digital Navigators. It's about 2 years old, but they're available across 16 branches. And there's those branches that we saw, that we showed in that map earlier on, that are really impacted by the digital divide, right? So mostly on the west and north side, and then a little bit on the south. And the digital navigators do 3 main things. So they help people get internet at home, right? So they help them pick out an internet plan that works for them and that they can afford. They help them find low-cost devices that work for them. And then lastly, and the majority of our time is spent helping people with basic tech instruction. So they do one-on-one hour-long appointments with folks who are starting from the very basics and need to level up to reach where they want to go, right? One of those navigator positions is funded by IDEAS specifically to do outreach to the IDD community. But all of the navigators can help anyone. And we're particularly interested in working with the folks in your community because, as I pointed out, that gap is even bigger, right? For folks with IDD, and the possibilities of community and connection that come from being connected to the internet are that much more impactful, right? For folks in the community as well. So the way that you make a digital navigator appointment is you call our main number or you email our email address. So I'll put both of those in the chat. Our main number is 720-865-3446. Oops, that's too many fours. Try again, Nate. 720-865-3446. And our main email is dignav, D-I-G-N-A-V, at denverlibrary.org. And either one of those are ways that you can reach out, and we will set up an appointment with you to meet you at a library and talk through what technology needs you have. Lastly, I also wanted to touch on the other part that's part of our digital inclusion department, which is our makerspaces. It's the program I used to work with before I started doing digital navigator stuff. But these are spaces at awesome. These are spaces at 6 of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches currently that are called makerspaces, and they're spaces that have tools like sewing machines, 3D printers, laser cutters, Cricut stencil machines that anyone can come in and use during the open lab time, and there's staff there to help you learn how to use them. They are super fun places to work on your own personal projects and learn new ways to do things. We have recording studios in some of them as well. And I just wanted to make sure that we tooted our horn about that because it's also a great resource for the community as well. All right. Sorry, I may have sped through that, but I wanted to check to see if anyone has any questions for me. Brian.
Brian B., thank you for this presentation. And I'll just throw a couple random things out there, some goals that I have to transfer my current phone internal storage to my SD card. Oh, goodness, I've tried. Digital Navigator, help me with that?
Yes, you could also do that in a drop-in tech help session as well. That sounds like a good question for either one of those.
Even getting a new phone, every time I go to engage that process, it's always way more than I can even just stop and I will pay you to leave me alone now. Is that something a digital navigator can help me with?
Yeah, they love helping people pick out technology that works for them. So that's a fantastic thing. Yeah.
I'm going to marry a digital navigator. Okay.
That's what my wife did. She's a nurse, and I would just tech support for my home.
Okay.
Erica asked in the chat, are there alternatives to the now ended Affordable Connectivity Program? So for those of you who don't know, the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP, was a federal program that gave folks who qualified for it $30 a month to help pay for internet at home. Today actually is the very last day of that program. It is ending. It's run out of funding, and Congress is not moving to renew it. There's nothing as good as ACP, Erica, unfortunately. There are some, the Lifeline program is still going on, which gives people a $10 a month benefit. So that's something, and there are some internet providers who accept Lifeline as well. Comcast is still carrying its Internet Essentials program, which gives you for either $10 or $29 a month. They have income qualified plans for folks to get broadband at home. PCs for People offers a hotspot program for $16 a month. It's a 4G hotspot, so it's not super fast, but it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. And then the Verizon Forward program is another income qualified program where you can apply to get $20 off of your Verizon bill. What that means is that usually that people end up paying around $20 for internet at home after that discount. But those are the options we have available to us right now for folks.
Well, thank you so much for presenting. It's great to hear about all these programs. I know we refer a lot of our older adults that we talk to at Dr. Cog to the library for extra assistance.
Yay, so glad to hear it.
If there's no other questions, we'll turn over to our next presenter. And we do have, of course, your contact info that is in the chat. And like Lynn said, that'll be in our minutes too. So if people have additional questions, feel free to reach out that way. Thank you, Brian. All right. And so for our next presenter, we have Shannon Sullivan, the Autism Community Store, presenting regarding the Sensory Friendly Denver and the work done also with the library at Sam Gary.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you, Kristen and Nate. I learned some things too, and it's wonderful that the library is making these efforts to welcome larger audiences and collect missing voices. So I'm just going to share my screen to talk a little bit about the work that we did with the Sam Gary Library. Sorry, of course I have like 10,000 things open on my computer as always.
And this is Michaela. Shannon, while you do that, maybe just by a show of hands, do folks on the council have a good sense of the work that we do with Autism Community Store and Sensory Friendly Denver? It'd be good to have maybe a bit of a refresher.
That would be helpful, I think.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. I sometimes take for granted that I get to see Shannon about once a month, and it's just such a joy every time. But want to make sure that I think you all have made different recommendations, and yet maybe it's good to kind of zoom out and kind of look about kind of what IDEAS and Autism Community Store's partnership has been.
would you like me to speak to that?
Yeah,
Michaela?
yeah, if you don't mind,
Okay,
that would be
oh,
great.
sorry.
I was while you're getting stuff ready.
Okay, well, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, I think, in the context of, or there's some slides that address that. So why don't I go ahead and start the presentation, and I'll try to just fill in a little bit more information as I go to give context. Does that sound good? And is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see the sensory
Okay.
Denver.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so this the Sensory Friendly Denver project works with a variety of different organizations in the Denver area to help increase recreational and leisure opportunities. That was the initial focus of the funding, but it's since expanded to work with other community hubs, really anywhere that people who have IDD, who are Denver residents, may not be accessing them, either because they don't know of programs that exist or because there are sensory or social barriers that kind of prevent them from participating in these community destinations. The work began in 2019, right before COVID, which was very challenging as everything shut down, and we kind of had a pause and worked for a little while with some day programs in Denver. We have an inclusion team at the Autism Community Store that goes out to these different places, and I'll use Sam Gary as an example to show what the process typically looks like. So we start with a sensory site assessment. You can see in this case, Brian B. and myself and Kristen Bernard, who is a parent of a neurodivergent teen in Denver, went out ourselves, visited the library to assess the sensory environment, very broadly speaking, the entire process of getting to the library, parking or taking public transportation, figuring out where to go, everything that goes into accessing this space. For other destinations, sometimes we will specifically recruit people from the community, families that we know. For example, when we worked with the Botanic Gardens, we reached out to people who had younger children to be able to experience the children's garden. We will often bring other staff members, other members of the team, our own children. My daughter is 22 and has autism. She will often visit places with me so I can see what that experience feels like from a caregiver's perspective. And sometimes we will also solicit stakeholder input more broadly, as we did with public libraries through an open community survey. So we try to gather as much information as we can as part of this site assessment process. After that, we will conduct a staff training for the staff of the organization, as we did with Sam Gary here. We complete a sensory audit of the space that includes recommendations. This is a very detailed report that, again, takes into account all of the aspects of getting to the place, accessing the programs and activities, tolerating the sensory environment, and then makes recommendations in each of those areas. And then finally, based on the recommendations and using IDEAS funding, we are able to provide sensory supports that meet the specific or help mitigate some of the specific challenges of the location. That can include everything from like noise reducing headphones that you see here to the creation of sensory spaces. It's very, very specific to the organization. In the case of the Molly Brown House, for example, we were able to provide them with acrylic ghost chairs because we and the people who helped us with the assessment felt that having a place to sit down, that where you were allowed to sit, was actually an accommodation that would make a large difference within our community and among others within the space. So that's an example of some of the more unique sensory types of sensory equipment that have been provided through this program. As I mentioned, with the public libraries, we did an open survey. I will caution the response was not large, but the answers, and nor was it specific to the Sam Gary Library. but I do believe some of the answers fill in some of the missing voices, and they are representative of responses we've seen across lots of destinations. So one of the questions asked how often people visit the public library. We had approximately 10% of the people say that they rarely or never go. And about 30% of the people said that they would like to, but they don't. Which really points to the challenge of finding out, of getting information from people who don't even visit the place that you're trying to welcome them into. Some of the responses we received that are kind of hard to hear and read. One person has Tourette's syndrome and felt that they were being stared at and even chided at the library because of the noises, their vocal tics. Another person was afraid to go because their child, again, makes noise and can bounce or jump and not behave appropriately in what are seen as quiet spaces. And then we did also receive a number of responses about the sensory environment itself, that the spaces were actually loud and crowded and bright and busy feeling, and that there was challenges with the lighting being too bright and artificial. I'm going to pause for just 1 second also to say that for those of you that I didn't mention, that I am a woman in my 50s with long brown hair, and I'm speaking from my home office. I have some fake plant flowers behind me and a picture of my children, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Apologize for not saying that earlier. So as we approach different sites, different organizations, we take a holistic perspective, understanding that for our community of autistic and neurodivergent people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, that barriers to inclusion are not just how loud it is or how bright it is or how crowded it is, but whether truly people feel welcome when they go someplace, which is acceptance, whether they feel competent and capable within that space, whether they're comfortable, and that those things determine how much people engage in a space. And then sensory supports are again, the things that you can kind of put on the back end as Band-Aids. So when we ask people whether patrons made them feel welcome and comfortable at the library, nearly 30% said that no, that they didn't. So we know that that acceptance is a barrier, that feeling like you are truly welcome in these community spaces is something that needs to be worked on across lots and lots of organizations. Libraries can send overt and subtle messages of welcome through their approach and programs. And staff can model kindness, acceptance, and inclusion for other patrons. This is a long road that I think all of us are dedicated to trying to help make the world a kinder place. But we can take small and sometimes larger and overt steps to help people feel welcome. Just having a sign, having certain programs like sensory friendly hours, such as the IDEA was happening at the Sam Gary IDEA Lab, send a huge message of welcome to a community that may be reluctant to go to the library. When we ask people what kinds of issues they experienced when they were trying to go to the library, a whole bunch of them had to do with this issue of competence. Excuse me. Feeling like they would be able to behave appropriately, or that other people would accept their behavior at the library, that they would know where to go and know what to do when they were there. So some of the strategies that can be used to help build competence in a library setting have to do with strategies like having social stories or social narratives or additional information, often on the website, that help people anticipate and predict what their experience is going to be like at the library so that they feel more comfortable going. Things like having maps, visual maps whenever possible, and good signage, to anything that helps reduce friction of the experience, helping people to get into the space. Having visual supports like here in the Idea Lab, where there are all these visually based instructions to help people complete the tasks and feel confident in that space. These can be geared for different ability levels. And then making the roles really clear, again, using visuals whenever possible, visuals and symbols for people who have limited language abilities. Plus opportunities to practice. Again, that is something that the sensory friendly programming or sensory friendly hours can accomplish, hopefully as a bridge toward accessing the library during regular hours that are open to the entire public. So the idea isn't to just have everything be separate for the community of people who are autistic, but to have bridge programming that allows them to feel more comfortable, to gain experience in the space so that they will access it at all other times. And then in terms of the sensory environment, the top answer was lighting and glare. And again, this was for all libraries, not specific to the makerspace. So crowds and sound may well be a larger issue in some of the Idea Labs and places where there is more noise and more things happening. You can see the visual environment. Here's a picture of Brian kind of looking, I think, at that can light in the ceiling, which was really challenging. So lighting is something that we hear often in response to what are the sensory barriers in a space. Overhead lighting, glare, fluorescent lighting is particularly challenging, but wasn't present in this particular space. Visual overwhelm is another challenge, dealing with pattern and contrast, and that was something that is challenging. It's something that's challenging in libraries in general, where it's visually rich. There are a lot of books in the Idea Labs, lots of different kinds of materials and bins. Sometimes, unfortunately, in the libraries, we see carpeting that adds an additional layer of really strong visual information that people who have trouble screening out the important information from the less important information can find really challenging and can contribute to that feeling of a space being just overwhelming and difficult to navigate. Auditorially, within the Idea Labs, sound, it can be loud. The sounds are often unpredictable, like the HVA system that suddenly goes on, uncontrollable, and sorry, my notes are covered up. And there are competing sounds. So again, like the visual environment, being able to discriminate background from foreground noise, to understand instructions or a request when there is a tool or a piece of equipment being used and people talking can create a very challenging soundscape. So engagement is what happens when the other things are going well, when people do feel welcome, when they're comfortable, and when there are meaningful things for them to do. We've heard in other conversations with different parts of the library that, and we've seen ourselves in the Autism Community Store, that there's often, for example, adult day programs that will come into the library seeking community access and will just kind of wander around. So I think having projects, having activities, having spaces where people do feel like they belong can be really, can make a big difference in levels of engagement in this community. So some of the strategies are defining areas by interest or need rather than age, which the Idea Labs accomplished. Having all ages programs, again, Idea Labs is really uniquely suited to do this. Sensory friendly hours and programs. And then sensory supports. These are just some of the sensory supports that we were able to provide to the Idea Labs. Some wobble stools for people who are seeking more movement than typical chairs allow. Some noise reducing headphones and some fidgets. And again, when we ask people why they go to the library, the #1 answer was to go someplace in the community. So these are community spaces, and I think the more that we can make them welcoming, and I really am so grateful as a parent and a community member that these efforts are being made on the part of the library. So thank you so much, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Shannon. That was very helpful. And do you have a hand up or okay? Do you have any questions? I don't see any. I mean, I believe we will have Shannon's contact info. Was that in the slide?
I can put it in the
If
chat.
you're comfortable with, and then
Mhm.
if anyone has any questions, I do want to make sure we leave space for public comment as well. Since we are at 2:50. We do not have anyone signed up for public comment, which is fine. You are still able to participate if you like. If anyone from the community wants to participate in public comment, you are welcome to let us know in the chat or raise your hand, and then you would be having up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts uninterrupted with us. I'll leave a moment here to see if we have anyone that wants to participate. Don't see any hands or comments.
As a reminder, this is space for those that want to share something that you'd like us to hear. A chance for this council to listen.
And of course, if nothing comes up now, if someone's thinking of something and they want to participate in public comment in the next meeting, we're about to move forward to our forecasting. So just to look at May, our next meeting would be the 28th of May, which is the day after Memorial Day. We wanted to touch base, and if that's any issue for anybody on the council in terms of being able to attend.
This is Kaylee. That day still works for me.
Okay.
And Lynn, do I remember right? You said that that day does not work for you to attend. Is that correct?
Me, Lindsay? Yeah.
I'm
I won't-
sorry. Why did I say Lynn? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be able to attend, but
So I wonder if this is a good time for me to ask for a fill-in co-chair. Somebody would step up just for one meeting.
we don't necessarily need a different coach.
I was hoping somebody that might be wanting to get their feet wet for applying for the co-chair in a year or less than a year now. It'd be like, oh, let me try it out. I agree, we don't necessarily need it, but I don't know. Just put it out there.
So moving on, if the date still works for the majority, then we can, obviously we'll leave it at that. We just wanted to bring it up in case the holiday was gonna be a factor. You know, it's, even if people are back at work, a lot of times that can be a very hectic day, the first day after a holiday, so it can be tough to step away, but moving on from that note, is there anything that people want to add in terms of our agenda for May? I don't think we have anything from Corey in terms of what we're already looking at.
Just in terms of sensory friendly, and when I think about meeting in May, it makes me think about a lot of what happens in this country around July 4th. And that's something that impacts the IDD community as well as the veterans community. Nothing particularly we need to do about that. I'm just noticing out loud some of the timing and some of our subjects.
Was there anything that you wanted to have us discuss on the next agenda?
Not sure how to put that under a theme, but just that I was raised by a veteran, and the time when there's loud bangs going on a regular basis, you know, really impacted our family life. And then being in the autism community, similar. And I know some people are may not be in that space of the sensory friendly, either autism or similar neurodivergence, or they may not be in the veteran space, but with their pets, they have to navigate life a little bit differently for a few weeks during times of bangs. Just noticing that out loud. I don't know what there is to talk about with that. Pass.
Maybe we can put in as sensory issues and what that might relate to community spaces, events, and holidays, and can relay that to Corey when creating the next agenda or upcoming agendas and see where that fits.
Hey, this is Michelle. I have a question about a potential agenda item. Hold on one second. There's a truck outside though. Okay, seems to have gone by. So I have a question about sensory friendly Denver. I'd like for them to come back and if they have anything to share about the airport as it's being rebuilt, as it's being modified. I'd like to know about what types of accommodations or if any contact has been made with the powers that be at the airport, because that's just a really overloading environment. If we think that libraries can be a little bit difficult to navigate, airports, I imagine, are amongst the most difficult to navigate. So I'd love to hear, if anything, what is being done to help some of our community members navigate the airport. I know there are some airports in the country that have programs in place to help our community members. So I'd love to know, one, if we have such a program in place. Two, if we don't have a program in place, how can we get a program in place as they're going through the renovations for the airport? And three, if there's been any assessment that's been done at the airport for our community members.
Shannon, do you want to take that one real quick? No, it's sort of more to come.
Yes, we have been making strides working with the airport. It's a very complex entity. And I think we have some really great allies there who are interested in having in making the airport as accessible as possible, and looking at knowing, you know, what some of the other airports have done around the country in terms of having sensory rooms and things like that. So along with, I see in the message in the chat too, there's proposed legislation related to accessibility. They have been having, they have stakeholder groups who have been very involved in providing them with feedback on a variety of accessibility issues, and then are hopefully on the cusp of working with us much more closely around some of the sensory barriers at the airport. So stay tuned. It is a process for sure with the airport, but a very, very great need.
So this is Michelle again. Does that mean, yes, we can have a formal update? It doesn't have to be in May, but can we look to you to come back and let us know, if it's June, July, or whatever? But is that yes, there's information you can share with us at a later time?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that there is a representative from the airport who often attends these meetings, so she may be able to provide an update as well, from the airport standpoint. Yeah, I'd be happy to come and give an update on what we're doing through the Sensory Friendly Denver project with the airport.
This is Michelle again. Thank you so much.
All right, well, now that we're at 301, of course, anyone, if you're welcome to, if you have other thoughts on upcoming meeting agenda items that you'd like to discuss, feel free to reach out to myself, Brian, Corey, Michaela, and given the time, we'll open up for a motion to adjourn.
Brian, I motion that we adjourn.
This is Michelle. I second your motion, Brian, to adjourn.
You have to sing that.
And put that to vote for the chat for council members that are still here.
Yeah, Beth had to exit.
Right.
Thank you, visitors and presenters and members.
So does that mean we vote to adjourn? I forgot.
Yeah, so you just type your vote in the chat.
Okay, let me get.
Thank you.
Lindsay,
So got 4. And with that, we are adjourned at 3:02 on the 28th of April. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to jump right out. A lot of times I hang around. Michaela, if you want to stop the recording, if you're able to hold space, or if you need to exit, whatever you got to do.